Hello, world. We are live. Live, I tell you. It is a Monday. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Yeah. Oh, I'm being told you're muted. Hold on. Oh, shoot. It was still set for what we did last week. Hold on. Audio is my nemesis. Um, I have to find loopback. I have to turn on Zoom. I have to replace the audio layer with Zoom. I have angered Audition in the process. Say something, please.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, they can. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, everyone. So your questions show. Start from the beginning.
Yeah. So normally I do my question show at 5 p.m. Pacific time on Monday, and I've been doing that for years and years and years. And I had feedback from people saying, you live on a spherical world, and we exist too. And could you, give us a stream at some point? Because I never get to catch these live. So 2 weeks ago we did the Europe stream, which went really well. Got about the same number of people to watch the Europe stream that watched my normal Monday North America stream, which was kind of amazing. And then, sorry, I'm struggling with my headphones. And then last night at 10 o'clock my time was the Asian stream. And so it was roughly dinner time for people in Australia, New Zealand, Japan, and so on. So, and again, we got roughly the same number of people to watch. And I did a poll during the episode when, were you part of the target audience? And only 30% were. 70% of people were outside of Australia, Asia, New Zealand, etc. So, people in Europe, people in North America, night owls, and so on. And so it was quite interesting to sort of see that people keep funny schedules around the world. And so there's no way you can ever sort of balance it out. Like you just got to be everywhere for everybody, because that's just the reality of living on a spherical planet. So I found that really interesting. I'm going to definitely keep doing it. Next week will be the North America stream, but still, it was really interesting to see just how everybody popped out of the woodwork and hung out. It was great. I loved it.
That is absolutely amazing.
Yeah. So just consider that, like if you have a set schedule when you do a thing, and I know you're a night owl, consider starting one of the things that you do at, a time where you are perkier, right? Like, you know what I mean? Because like you start to really get rolling at 11 o'clock or midnight or whatever, while I'm, really sleepy, groggy.
It's true.
I'm good to go at 5 a.m. But anyway, so anyway, consider that.
So this is, just to remind everyone, this is going to be our last live recording until January. I need to pull up my calendar because I don't remember exact dates. So our next live recording will be January 6th. And then January 13th. All will be as normal. January 20th, which is both Martin Luther King Day and the U.S. inauguration. I'm pretty sure my brain is going to say no. And I'm going to be in Florida that day.
Yeah.
So I feel that we're probably going to end up doing a double header on January 13th. And
Okay.
then all will be normal the 27th. And there's going to be less for this show, but more for EVSN, a bit of chaos at some point, because as those of you who have been watching us long enough know, the studio that I'm in right now is just a room in my basement. And at one point a couple of years ago, we removed the ceiling because it decided to like fall down in chunks. And after a chunk fell in the middle of Weekly Space Hangout, it was time for it to go.
Yeah.
Well, there's brick wall behind the green screen that's behind me, and it is nasty, nasty. Looks like a dungeon brick wall. And we're going to pay somebody to seal the brick wall so it will still look horrible, but it will no longer be shedding particulate.
Right. That's filling your lungs.
Right. So at some point, I'm going to have to completely empty my office, which is going to require finding college students to pay money to. And then people are going to come in and do the thing. And then I'm going to have to pay money to put them back in here. So there will be chaos and a change of background at some point.
That sounds great.
I am excited about this chaos.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, we should do our job.
Okay.
Let's get into it.
I am... there's my mouse cursor. I'm pressing record on my audio. I am pressing record on our video. We are recording.
Yes. All right. Let's get started. I'm on the button. Okay. Astronomy Cast, episode 738, looking ahead to 2025. Welcome to Astronomy Cast, our weekly facts-based journey through the cosmos, where we do this again. Oh, man. I forget. I've only done this 738 times.
Yes.
I'll do the whole thing again.
All
Enjoy,
right.
Rich. Astronomy Cast, episode 738, looking ahead to 2025. Welcome to Astronomy Cast, our weekly facts-based journey through the cosmos, where we help you understand not only what we know, but how we know what we know. I'm Fraser Cain, publisher of Universe Today. With me, as always, is Dr. Pamela, a senior scientist for the Planetary Science Institute and the director of CosmoQuest. Hey, Pamela, how you doing?
I am doing well. I survived the American Geophysical Union meeting with 30,000 of my closest friends, and it was really good to reconnect with people, to see everything that's being done, and wow, just wow.
Were
How
you
about you?
able to avoid con crud?
Yeah, totally. So I mask like a crazy person. So I actually haven't been sick at all, other than like hurting myself because I'm a klutz, since January 2020.
Yeah. The only time I've been sick in the last 4 years, since COVID,
Yeah.
was when I was in Europe. And both my kid and I picked up some bug that everybody had, this sort of nasal cough thing going on. But apart from that, yeah. So it's like weird, but we get these side benefits from trying to be careful about spreading infectious diseases. Who would have thought? Now, you should explain what the coming weeks are going to look like for Astronomy Cast, because it's holiday time, and so when can people expect things to happen?
So this is one of those years where we have the magical Christmas and New Year's are on Wednesdays, which means everybody is taking all of 2 weeks off in my life, possibly in your life. And as a result of this, the next live recording of Astronomy Cast is going to be on January 6th, which means the next recorded episode will go live on January 13th. We're going to record 2 live episodes on January 13th because the 20th, I'm going to be in Florida for PodFest and to hopefully see a launch. And then everything should be back to normal after that. So welcome to the holidays, everyone.
Yeah. But also like emotionally prepare yourself for hiatus coming 4 months, 5 months after that.
Yeah.
So, all right. So last week we talked about the 2024 strangeness. Now we're going to talk about the upcoming space stories for 2025 that we're looking forward to. It's a nice mix of new rockets, new missions, and new flybys. And we'll talk about it in a second, but it's time for a break. And we're back. Okay, Pamela, ladies' choice, which mission, science result thing are you looking forward to? But if you steal my thunder, oh, I'll be so mad.
I
What are you looking
don't
forward to?
think I'm going to with this one.
Okay.
So last July, we told everyone to be on high alert because T Corona Borealis was supposed to go nova,
This is your choice. Okay.
and it
Yep.
didn't. And
Yep.
so now we have a recurring nova that is being utterly disobedient, which is actually scientifically super cool. And so my question for 2025 is it going to blow?
Wow.
This is
So,
my big thing.
like
Yes.
every day that goes by that this thing doesn't go off as a nova, breaking what is multiple cycles of observations
Yeah.
means something really interesting is happening.
Yeah, and so the question becomes, was there some sort of a evolution in the star that has had material stolen off of it? Is there just some sort of a change in how the material is getting distributed? What is going on? I'm just making up guesses that are wild. And the truth is, we have no idea. It should have gone off by now.
Yeah.
And the fact that it hasn't is super cool. So keep on keeping on, T Corona Borealis. You have us captivated.
Oh, this is awesome. I love that. Okay. Well, you didn't steal my thunder, so I will now deliver the thunder. And that is, can you guess what I'm most excited about for 2025? Vera Rubin, come on.
All right. All right. Yes,
Yeah.
that totally makes sense.
Yeah, of course. The Vera Rubin telescope, which is actually in the commissioning phase
Yeah.
right now. I've been following the blog for Vera Rubin, and they are operating this telescope. They are taking test images. They are trying to figure out if the thing is working as expected. And so someone out there, many people out there have looked at pictures taken by Vera Rubin.
But
But
not with the good camera.
we're going to see the proper 2025, completion of the commission, and
Yeah.
it will go into its science operations in 2025. And like, it is so close now that I really feel like there's no reason why it won't happen in 2025. And what are we going to get, right? We are going to get this incredible 8.4-meter telescope that is observing several degrees of the sky every 15 minutes. It's going to create an entire view of the night sky from the southern hemisphere every 3 days. It's
Yeah.
going to produce 10 terabytes of data a day that's going to be collected in these giant archive servers that then astronomers can look through to find everything that the universe does when we're not looking, and it goes bump in the night. But it's also going to have a separate stream which is going to be like Vera Rubin's favorites. It's bookmarks. And so if interesting things that meet with certain kind of criteria, new supernovae, interesting motions of large objects, things like that, it's going to highlight them for astronomers to get on them right away. And so I'm kind of excited. I'm hoping that the way this is going to work is that we can do some kind of live stream where I'll gather together a bunch of astronomers and we'll watch the feed and go, oh, new supernova and blah blah blah, and then I'll maybe turn my telescope and see if we can actually see the supernova and talk about what it is. And like, oh, Planet Nine was found, right?
That for 2026 is my that is my thunder. It's
Yeah.
like we will finally know for certain, is there a planet 9 out there that meets the criteria set forward by Constantine, I can never remember how to say his last name, and
Vatican. Okay.
yeah, and Michael Brown's research. In 2026 we'll know for sure if that's there.
Yeah. I mean, or they'll find it in 2025. Like there's a chance they'll find it in 2025. More likely they'll find it by 2026 or fail to find it by 2026.
Also,
and that is super useful and interesting. So, all right, we will continue our interesting stories, but it's time for another break. And we're back. All right, the ball's in your court, Pamela.
So, New Glenn, will it or won't it? This is the question. And because I'm going to be in Florida for 2 weeks in January, part of me is like, please wait. please hold. Just stand by. I'm almost there.
Right.
But we need New Glenn to work. We need another large rocket that
Yeah.
is capable of delivering landers and other big cargo to the surface of the moon. Now, one of the things that is like eating my soul is the NASA budget. And Starship is so far behind, and the SLS is not. And if we have to figure out how to store these massive rockets and we have further delays on the human spaceflight program to the moon, that's going to eat into the science budget if the science budget is allowed to persist. And so, if we can get New Glenn with their blue moon to move faster, there is a chance that we'll just leapfrog which of the two landers we're using. So please, New Glenn, work. The science budget requires it. I'm
Yeah.
apparently following human spaceflight because of fear of SMD losing funding.
Right. Yeah, I mean, so the plan is to actually do a test flight of New Glenn in December. And hopefully we won't even have to wait till 2025 for that to
Yeah.
happen. But if it does slip, and like, what, rocket slip, Blue Origin slip, what? um then I think you're exactly right that we may see it get tested in 2025. But Blue Origin is on a schedule, and that
Yeah.
is that they've got to demonstrate that this works, because they were supposed to have launched the Escapade mission back in November.
Right.
That's been pushed to March, but that is the end of the window to go to Mars. Like, if you don't get New Glenn off the pad with Escapade on top on the way to Mars by March, then you're waiting 2 years, and that is a serious failure by Blue Origin to fulfill on their contract.
So I want it delayed due only to bad weather and the fact that FAA
Right.
has certain windows. It doesn't allow big launches because it's the holiday travel season. So please don't no-tam us. Yeah, so
Right. Yeah. Okay. Come on, Blue Origin. All right.
yeah.
So I'm going to do the counter to yours, which is that I'm looking forward to Starship, which is, and I think you hinted at this, which is
Yeah.
that, Starship is on the critical path
Yeah.
for the Artemis 3 mission. It is the landing system that is going to carry the astronauts down to the surface of the moon. And so it needs to be in place. And there is a giant list of things that Starship still needs to complete. At the very minimum, they need to demonstrate that they can do cryogenic propulsion in, cryogenic propellant transfer in orbit. They need to refill a tanker in space. They need to or refill the human landing system, which needs to be built and operational, and they need to fire that off to the moon, and it needs to go into orbit around the moon. It needs to loiter there for several months, and then needs to demonstrate that it can reawaken, still having all of its propulsion on board, go down to the surface of the moon, come back into lunar orbit. Like, there's a big list, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff. It's not absolutely necessary. If they're willing to throw away starships, then they don't need to demonstrate that those things can be captured by Mechazilla the way that we saw the booster did. But we're looking at 15 to 20 refueling missions of starships to get the human landing system off to the moon. So it's a huge list. And I want them to accomplish them, right? Like, I want them to demonstrate that this next generation 2-stage rocket system is going to work and provide heavy lift, inexpensive flights to space.
We need both.
We need both at all.
Yeah.
Right. Because then, and for it to be reusable, because then a whole class of new missions becomes possible that theoretically the launch costs could go significantly down. It sort of proves categorically that anyone can build these 2-stage reusable rockets, and you should see the entire industry switch over to what is a more reusable, lower cost future. Right now we're throwing away rockets. The Europeans throw away rockets. The Chinese throw away rockets. Americans throw away rockets. Why throw them away? Reuse them. And so, no matter, and then if we can have that competition with Blue Origin, with SpaceX, then that's my perfect world where you've got this healthy competition,
Yeah.
multiple groups who are competing for business and pushing each other to be better and better. All right. We are going to continue on with our list, but it's time for another break. And we're back. All right. What's your next one?
For reasons I can't explain other than that's the way the worlds orbit, both Hera and Lucy and Europa Clipper are going to be doing flybys in March, April. So we have
Yeah.
Europa Clipper and Hera are both doing in March Mars flybys. And Lucy visits Donald Johanson on April 20th, 2025. And it's just cool to see these little brand new missions show off that they are working, or panic all of us because they aren't, but we're sure. I'm counting my
Right.
missions before they have done anything. That these little missions are going to be able to do the job.
I always love when you get these flybys
Yeah.
because it's a chance, as you say, to test. So Europa Clipper is going to do a flyby of Mars,
Hmm.
turn on its instruments, pretend it's at Europa,
Yeah.
and see what it can see. Um, what I mean, they're such well-studied worlds, but what do you think we might learn from these flybys?
Well, the cool thing about flybys like this is the missions that we have orbiting Mars can't get a full disk image because they're too close. Here at Earth, we can get a full disk image, but the resolution's kind of blah because we're way over here. These missions are going to be able to get those full disk images, completely filling their detectors. And this will allow us to see weather patterns, to see if there's any dust storms going on. And there's also plans to look at the moons. And we don't look at those moons nearly enough. And as we look to a future where perhaps we're visiting moons instead of visiting Mars, we're going to need all the data we can get on those moons.
And like Hera specifically, this is
Yes.
going to be going out to Didymus and Dimorphos.
Yes.
It's going to do a flyby of Phobos and Deimos. And so it's going to have a great chance to both give us a lot more information on those moons and also just test out, it's not going past asteroids, it's going past moons, but they really look like asteroids. And so it's sort of like
Yes.
the perfect test of its instruments. So all of these are going to be great. Um, I love how every spacecraft that does a flyby of Earth, I mean, there aren't any of these planned for
Yes.
this year, but they try to find life on Earth. They try to find to see if Earth is a habitable world, and this was this wonderful thing thought by Carl Sagan back when Galileo did its flyby of Earth, and he said, "Will we see that
Yeah.
Earth has a biosphere, that it is a living planet?" You know, and it's sort of a great idea. Um, my list. Let's see what else have I got here. I threw something in. Um, okay, so the moon. Uh, there are. I tried to count them up, but at least five, maybe six different missions headed to the moon in 2025.
Yes.
And these are the CLIPS program, the commercial lunar payload, and from a bunch of different companies. So Intuitive Machines is going to be sending its second attempt at a lander to the moon.
Mm-hmm.
Firefly Aerospace is going to be sending their first lander to the moon, and there's
Blue
like a whole
Ghost.
bunch more as well as Blue Ghost, and there's a whole bunch more missions that are going to be going as well. So if all goes well, we should see a whole bunch of lunar landing attempts on the moon in 2025, and that will feel very this great vindication from all of the trouble that we saw from the Japanese lunar lander and of Intuitive Machines first lander.
And this is the year where we're really going to see, can commercial space do the thing that it has said it can do? Can it live up to its promise? There has been a lot of chatter about, well, maybe all the money that we're spending on clips is not money well spent.
Hmm.
Maybe it's just not ready yet. Well, this is the year we find out. And
Yeah.
it's either going to change everything or make us sad. Please change everything.
Right, don't make it sad. um yeah, man, I felt so sad when both Slim and the Intuitive, was it Odyssey. Anyway, the first intuitive machines missions
And it cost
didn't.
Viper. It cost Viper bad.
Yeah, yeah. And so there's so many interesting ideas proposed for the moon, and I want to see these experiments starting to run. You always sort of think, we want to see human footsteps on the moon, but they're not going to do a lot of science with Artemis 3. It's really just planting a flag and saying
Yeah.
we did it. We still have the ability to go to the moon.
Yeah.
But with the Eclipse program, with all of this lunar science, it's a total revolution. And you can imagine this going even farther with, say, Mars, that there'll be these commercial programs flying to Mars and people just put an instrument on board. We want to send a microphone to Mars, no problem. That'll cost you, $1 million on the Mars mission. And
Yeah.
this is like a proper test to that. All right. So a rocket that I is scheduled to fly in 2025, and I am skeptical, and yet I think we should bring it up because nobody has officially canceled it, and that is Neutron,
Yeah.
which is the next level
Rocket
mission
Lab.
coming, from Rocket Lab, the people who do the Electron launches out of New Zealand. And they're building capacity to launch rockets in the United States, and Neutron is hopefully going to be a fully reusable rocket.
Mm-hmm.
And they've made their way through a lot of the the tasks in their to-do list, but they are hopefully going to be able to do an actual test launch of this rocket in 2025. And I don't think people were expecting this. All eyes are on Starship, all eyes are on New Glenn, but Rocket Lab has been just dominating
Yeah.
this small satellite market.
Yeah, the electrons are a huggable rocket. Like you can walk up to one, don't do this while they're filled because they're too cold, and you can get your arms a good way around the rocket.
Yeah.
And they currently launch, as you said, from New Zealand. They're also launching from Wallace, which is really near Washington, D.C., which is an interesting political choice. And they're just going all the time. And it just works, and they're becoming more reusable as they go. They're working on catching them with helicopters, which is a
Mm-hmm.
completely different tech than we're seeing with everyone else, and it requires a whole lot less weight to pull it off, which when you're launching huggable rockets is important. And I'm just super impressed with what they're pulling off. And they're doing it with a creativity of naming and a humor and a tongue in cheek that I'm really enjoying everything coming out of Rocket Lab.
And it still remains to be seen how much of it is going to be fully
Yeah.
reusable. They're describing it as a partially reusable.
Right.
But one of the things that's really interesting is that they're going to have a fairing that opens up and delivers satellites and then closes back down and is part of the rocket that is returned to Earth. And so the hope is that they will be able to just keep reusing that fairing on the top. And nobody does that. Everybody, even SpaceX was trying to
Yeah.
recover the fairings as they were landing in the ocean, and I don't think has really put too much effort into that anymore. But in theory, Neutron is going to have this fairing, as part of the vehicle. And the future of Starship will have the same thing, that it will be able to open up these giant jaws and spit out satellites, but still sort of remains to be seen how well that's actually going to work. And so Neutron is going to really help try and push that forward.
I can't wait. I can't wait to see what they name them also. It's such a stupid thing, but it brings me joy, and we need
It
joy.
really, yeah, yeah. What else are you looking forward to?
So, Parker, it's doing its next closest round of encounters. Its very last encounter is scheduled for my birthday, December 12th of 2025. And so it's going to be undergoing senior review. I don't even know if it can do anything else without plunging into the sun as it goes. This is the year we have to prepare to say goodbye, and we also get to learn so much more. And then there's just like lame stuff like I'm looking forward to seeing if Sloan Digital Sky Survey puts out data release 19, because every time they put out a data release, science I was not expecting suddenly appears on the archive. So I look forward
Hmm.
to data, and I sadly look forward to saying goodbye to Parker.
Yeah, yeah, and one of the kind of most bittersweet ones for me is going to be saying goodbye to Gaia. And
Yeah.
like, we said like what we're looking forward to, but really this is the events that we are noting in our calendar and
Yeah.
circling and thinking about. And so the end of the Gaia mission is going to come probably in the end of January. They're going to no longer be taking observations. They're going to spend a couple of months to download all the data, and then they're going to push it into a graveyard orbit and they're going to turn it off. And we will no longer, they will no longer be gathering data for Gaia. But the next data release 4, is going to come probably
Yeah.
2026, and then data release, and that'll be like all the data, but maybe not fully massaged
Right.
yet. um, but you're going to see tens of thousands of exoplanets. You're going to see really interesting information about white dwarfs and neutron stars and the star's interstellar neighborhood and the more accurate compositions of stars out there.
Hmm.
And then the final data release is due for 2030. So
Yeah.
we say goodbye to Gaia in 2025.
It's true, and I do want to say we do actually we don't personally, we have nothing to do with it. SpaceX does reuse their fairings. They're just not putting the same effort into catching them because they've learned they can scoop them up and they're fine.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They pick them up out of the ocean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Um, and then have you got anything else before we wrap up?
I mean, there's always the little things that you look forward to going outside and seeing. So there's on August 12th, which means you also have a chance of going and seeing meteor showers. Venus and Jupiter are going to fit within a single field of view of a binocular set. And September 19th, just a few weeks, well, I guess about a month and a half later, there's going to be the thinnest of crescent moons and Venus and Regulus all within just a couple degrees of each other. So
Oh,
again,
wow.
all fitting within a binocular field of view, just perhaps a different pair of binoculars. And so sometimes it's good to just remember there's still cool stuff going on that you can see and not worry about the satellites.
Yeah, that all sounds great. All right. So, well, hey, we had a great year, Pamela. I'm looking forward to picking things up again in the new year. I hope you enjoy your holidays, and we will see everybody next year. Thanks.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone who has allowed us to keep going and keep our staff funded. This week, I want to thank Alex Rain, Antasor, Bore Androlevsval, Benjamin Mueller, Brenda, Buzz Parsec, Cody Rose, Danny McGletchen, David Truog, Don Mundus, Aaron Zegev, Frederick Salvo, Jeff McDonald Gold, Gregory Singleton, James Roger, Jeanette Wink, Jeremy Kerwin, Joanne Mulvey, Jonathan Poe, Justin Proctor, Kellyanne and David Parker, Christian Golding, Lee Harborn, Mark Phillips, Matthew Horstman, Michael Hartford, Michelle Cullen, Noah Albertson, Pauline Middlink, Robert Cordova, Rubin McCarthy, Scott Bieber, Ziggy, Kemmler, the Air Major, Tim Garish, and Wanderer M101. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, everyone, and we will see you next year.
And then they saved.
And then they saved. 7:38.
All right. So
Okay.
Q23 over on Twitter is asking what data massage means. So when you're taking images, there's background noise in the sky just from light scattering about, creating chaos. There is noise in your optics from a variety of sources. There is
Cosmic
digital
rays.
noise in your CCD. There are cosmic rays. And there's usually some sort of a data pipeline that goes through and in a very automated way reduces all of your data. And then you go through and you realize, well, shoot, Jupiter was right outside of the field of view. So you have light bouncing around, creating scattered light errors, and you have to fix it. Or you realize, our data pipeline was designed for when the CCD was only 5 years old and it's now 10 years old and it has more noise. So we need to upgrade our data pipeline. So data, usually you have that initial data reduction, and then you go through and you look at things painfully and carefully and realize all the things you need to change, and you change all the things and you reduce the data.
Mm-hmm. And a satellite goes straight through the object that you're observing, because um, there's so many little things that will corrupt or pollute the data that you need to go through and fix.
They're asking, is it really called a massage? And can I get one too? Only if we can process you with software. Mythtown says a deep data massage. I feel like that's what my dissertation
deep tissue data massage. Yeah. Any other questions?
No, I'm going to say, can we not have politics being discussed over on YouTube, please? Because that's just the pathway to sadness and tears.
That's weird. There's a new thingy on YouTube that says goal with a little.
Yeah, what is that?
Pick a goal.
Make
I see.
Super Chat more fun with a goal. I didn't know we had Super Chats. We have Super Chats now.
Don't use Super Chats. Use Patreon. Why would you give us a Super Chat when you could use Patreon? Super Chat.
It didn't used to be an option.
I know.
I need to turn it off.
Well, I don't think you want to turn it off because, like, hey, if someone wants to give us money, like, that's by all means. Okay. But, I always try to talk people out of it. Like, why would you give us?
Yeah.
If you give us a, if you sign up for our Patreon and you could just cancel right away, then you would, oh, somebody's getting banned.
Yeah.
Oh no. Yeah. So, don't use the Super Chat, use the Patreon. Whenever you have a creator that you like, because YouTube keeps 40% of the Super Chats. I think maybe it's 25%. Patreon only keeps 5%.
Yeah.
So we get a much larger percentage of the money. And then you get benefits.
Right. You get
office
all
hours
the
for
messages.
Astronomy Cast.
I write.
Yeah, you get all the Pamela's personal newsletter. You get your name read out in episodes.
If you donate above a certain amount,
Yeah. Yes. You get the ad-free version of the podcast. Like, there's so many other benefits. So, but I know it's like just right there. You're watching this on YouTube. You're watching on Twitch. You want to give bits.
Yeah. Now, Patreon, I can understand if you really want our emotes, because I am very proud of our emotes. But then you're purchasing use of the emotes. So that's different. It's like getting fries with a side of burger. The burger is Patreon.
Yeah. I wish it'd be cool if there's a way we could provide emotes from Patreon, but
I understand the way Twitch doesn't allow that, but
yeah. Oh, that's weird. My episode didn't go into the right folder. Or did it?
That's something I would do.
Huh.
All right. So Zap Fan is saying that Glenn still hasn't static fired. So the thing I need to look into is they did a test firing in September in which they broke the Clean Water Act on Kennedy, which feels like a very poor choice. And I need to go see if they now have the approvals to use their deluge system or not. Because it feels like breaking federal regulations while on a federally regulated facility.
Not your best move.
No.
Yeah.
No. I would love to know why the in thing this season is breaking the Clean Water Act. It's deeply confusing.
Yeah, well, I think these companies are under so much pressure to deliver, like, on the one hand, you've got NASA saying, where's our rocket? Where's our rocket? What about our rocket? You're going to launch our rocket, and New Glenn is sitting on the pad at a NASA facility ready to launch a NASA payload, and yet is having to fulfill commitments to the Clean Water Act. And obviously, you have to balance these things. You do commerce without damaging the environment.
Yeah. And
That's what's expected of you.
the only thing that both companies screwed up is they didn't file the Clean Water Act paperwork for the needed permitting when they started building their facilities. If they had done that, the timelines would have worked. It was like both companies failed to figure out what federal regulations they had to worry about. And I'm just very confused.
I
I'm
don't think
very,
they
very
failed. I
confused.
think they just were hoping to skate through. Just, that you sort of make your best first attempt at it, and then the regulators come in and check. You're always trying to get by with what you can to meet your various deadlines, meet your cost things, whatever. And then the regulators will come in and go, no, we need to do this, you do that. And then you fix those things. You go, now can we launch? Regulators go, nope, you got to do this, you got to do that. Now can we launch? Yeah, you can launch. Okay, great. Right. It doesn't make sense financially to over deliver on fulfilling the Clean Water Act.
But
You
this one is
under
just
deliver, and then,
paperwork. It's just paperwork.
yeah, yeah.
And the
It's
crazy
just
thing
how it
with
works.
SpaceX is they filed the correct paperwork for their McGregor facilities in Texas and for their facilities in Kennedy. So it was like sometimes they know they need to file paperwork. I don't know. I don't know. I am
Hmm.
confused. I am confused.
I don't think you should. I mean, maybe. I don't think you should be. I think it's,
Capitalism.
companies. Yeah, well, yeah, it's just I mean, you run a company.
Yes.
You have to save your records for your taxes,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't go into extreme detail. If the government requests some more information, you dig through your receipts and dig through your emails and pull up all the information and you pass it along, right? There's
But
like,
I filed the paperwork initially.
yes,
It was
yes,
the fact that neither company filed the initial paperwork on time that
right,
has me baffled. If
right,
they
right,
had
right. Yeah, yeah.
filed crappy paperwork on time, that I
Yes.
totally
I
understand.
guess that's what I'm assuming. Yeah, they're gonna
Yeah,
file
no,
crappy
they didn't
paperwork on
file
time. Yeah,
anything.
yeah. Did you watch Fly Me to the Moon yet?
No, I we missed it in the theaters.
Yeah.
So,
It's on, where did we watch it? Oh, we watched it on Crave. Did we? Or Prime?
it's
Anyway, we watched it. And it was fine. Like, my wife and I give, we take a Rotten Tomato score, and
yeah.
if it's a rom com, it loses 20% just off the bat. Like, if you're gonna make a rom com, that's a hit. Well, there's various actors who give a 5% boost. We have various modifications to the Rotten Tomato score. But it was really well done, showing the Apollo um, hardware, some of the challenges. They sort of reinvented the administration
Yes.
of the Apollo mission to be, a small group of people, which was nothing like what it would have actually been. If you see Hidden Figures, that was a very accurate representation of what it was like to be in NASA at the time for one small working group that was only trying to work on the math for one little part.
Yeah.
So, um, but at the same time, it was quite well. If you're like, oh no, they're like talking about how the moon landing was faked, but it's not that at all.
Yeah.
It's the opposite.
Yeah, it's
Um,
we have when my friends and I have season passes to Alamo Draft House. So basically, it's $2 to see any film we want, and so we try and catch things in the theater because it's just better.
yeah.
But no, we failed to catch that one.
Yeah, yeah. So I liked it. It has my post rom com 20% downgrade, but is still fine. And last time on Friday, I guess I was raving about Secret Levels, and now we're all done, finished. Boy, was it so good, so good. And even like looking forward to the potential for the Warhammer 40K
Yeah.
TV series that Henry Cavill is going to be creating. You get a sort of a sense of what they're going for with with
And
this.
he's a nerd's nerd.
Yeah.
So,
There's great like clips or sort of supercuts of Henry Cavill not shutting up about Warhammer 40,000. They'll ask him a question of like, what are you into? And then he's like, oh, I'm really into Warhammer 40,000. One of the other people, oh, what's your army? And then they'll talk about their armies. And other people from the cast are just like, what is this? Why are we talking about this?
apparently, it
Uh,
was problematic on the set of Witcher that he knew Witcher canon better than the writers of the TV show.
yep.
So I'm really, really hoping that Warhammer brings him joy.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, every nerd needs their moment of canon brought out canonically.
Canonical canon. I don't see any more questions on YouTube. Do you have any questions over
Um,
on Twitch at all?
Hold on, let me look. I feel like I murdered the discussion over on YouTube. Sorry about that. Um, they're talking about VAT on Patreon and Twitch. Apparently, VAT on Patreon is terrible.
For people who are contributing to it?
Yeah,
Huh.
that I didn't know.
Yeah, you get charged on GST that's the Canadian version of that.
Yeah,
It's like 5% on top of your expense. But so if you donate $1, then it's $1.05
okay. But
for
that's only
taxes.
5%, which isn't that bad.
I don't know what the VAT is in Europe.
They're saying 20%.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's quite a bit.
yeah. So Mythtown is asking, have you seen the image of a star from another galaxy? Closer in image, I should say.
Yes.
I I
Yeah.
remember
So
seeing
the
it and I have no memory of what I saw.
Yeah. So this was about 3 weeks ago, and the European Southern Observatory's very large telescope took an image of a star, one of the largest stars ever known in the Large Magellanic Cloud.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and actually shows pixels of its surface. So, like obviously we can see stars in other galaxies. You take a picture of Andromeda, even with a backyard telescope, and you're seeing stars in the galaxy.
Right.
The big ones, stuff
But to
that's
resolve the
farther away.
disk is next level.
But to resolve actual multiple pixels for the disk, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is the star that is
Massive.
1,500 times the size of the sun. Like it's a monster star.
Yeah. There's just been a lot of cool stuff coming out lately. I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot, but the catalog they just came out with of white dwarfs and main sequence stars, just the fact that we're starting to get to the point that we have enough of those discovered to create a catalog
Mm,
is cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the like another thing that I found really interesting in 2024 was the confirmation of the background gravitational wave
Yeah.
observations from you had the nanograv. They took 15 years to do this.
Hmm.
Meerkat took 4.5 years and looked at 80 pulsars, looked at more pulsars, was able to confirm this background gravitational wave from
Yeah.
merging supermassive black holes. And Meerkat is amazing. Has given us images, these radio wave images of the center of the Milky Way that look like they were taken with some other wavelength.
Hmm.
But these are radio. And I remember early on when we did episodes about radio astronomy, and you're like, you can't take pictures. It doesn't work that way. You
Now
have to
you
scan
can.
pixel by pixel by pixel.
Well,
Well,
you
now
still
you
do.
can. Yeah, but now they are taking pictures
Yeah.
in radio waves of these giant surveys of the sky thanks to Meerkat. Total game changer. And Meerkat is a prototype. It's a
Yeah.
pathfinder
For
for
SKA.
the square kilometer array. And so come 2030, we're going to get the fully operational, or into the 2030s, the fully
Hmm.
operational version of the square kilometer array, where you bring together uh, the Murchison telescope and the Meerkat working on two different continents, acting like a telescope as big as the distance between Australia and America, and Africa, with a square kilometer of resolving surface. It's just
Yeah. So
what that's going
SKA
to
has
be.
felt like it's just a few years away for my entire career.
Yeah,
And
fusion.
it's wild, just it might actually get done in the next decade. And
Yeah,
it so you have a square kilometer working at one set of wavelengths on one continent, and a square kilometer, it's actually more than that, working in South Africa, spanning countries.
yeah. So it's
And
like, I mean, it's like the Very Large Array and the Event Horizon Telescope had a
yeah,
baby, right?
yeah.
That you're going to have this that distance plus resolving power.
And it's also like following on what LOFAR has been doing with those weird antenna working at such long wavelengths. It's it's an entirely um, different part of the electromagnetic spectrum than most of us think about.
Yeah,
And I'm I've been looking forward to that since I first heard about it when I was a baby professor over a
that's
decade
crazy.
ago.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is really weird to feel like this, like a lot of the big milestones that we've been anticipating, the
Yeah.
return to the moon, the square kilometer array, Vera Rubin, Nancy Grace Roman, James Webb
Hmm.
came out, um, the extremely large telescope, Plato, like all of these are going to be coming out in a cluster between Lisa.
Yeah.
We're going to get this cluster of stuff that we've all been anticipating for almost our entire reporting career. They're going to start
Yeah.
coming out from 2025, 2026 through to early 2030. Um, and then the future is a lot hazier to me. I
It
can't think
is.
of the big stuff that we're really going to be looking forward to into the mid to late 2030s. And yet
Yeah.
now is the time when this stuff should start being figured out.
So part of
We're
the
good.
complication is just the funding situation.
Mm-hmm.
It's really coming up on this gap in what we have in the hopper ready to start construction. And the other thing that's going to be interesting is there's also going to be a major generational change, because even now you go to a conference and when it comes to people in permanent positions, boomers are
Yeah.
like, that's where the boomers are, permanent positions. And a whole lot of them are holding on to return to the moon. And so we're going to see a whole bunch of people whose basically parting gift to the next generation is, okay, we got you back. Now we're
Right.
retiring. Have our
Right.
permanent positions. And then all the universities are going to cancel them to save money.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to have a generational change. We're going to have basically a so what do we do next
Yeah.
soul searching going on. And I really think the next decadal survey suite is going to be something completely new, and I'm looking forward to that. And I mean, will we figure out dark matter? Will we figure out dark energy? What new parts of cosmology? We're 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 at the edge of figuring out so many different things across astrophysics and planetary, and Earth is a planet. Please don't destroy it.
Right. Yeah. 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 And I think a lot of people are hyper focused on, say, the Habitable Worlds
Mm,
Observatory. And we probably won't see that into the 2040s.
right.
Right. And everyone's like, oh, will we still be alive? Will we live long enough for that? But there's so much really exciting stuff that's happening just coming out. 2025, I
Yeah.
mean, Vera Rubin, sure, is great. I think a lot of the really interesting stuff is more 27, 26,
Yeah.
27 for me. But yeah, so don't look at don't pine for the arrival of the HWO. Be excited about the stuff that's coming up shortly. which you now must acknowledge exist.
It's
Listen to
true.
you. You just went on record acknowledging all of the existence of all of these things. I'm
I know.
impressed.
I know. It's because I'm worried about NASA budgets.
Yeah.
Look at me.
Does does anybody have any idea what's going to happen yet?
So I literally, every single person that I talked to at the AGU meeting, I was like, how do you feel about next year? And there is a lot of apprehension that grant funded science is going to completely go away,
Hmm.
at least at NASA, and turn more toward the European Space Agency's way of functioning, where the European Space Agency builds missions and then Copernicus, Europlanet are paying for the science. That is problematic because the National Science Foundation can't pick up everything.
Hmm.
There's a lot of apprehension about massive culture changes. I have heard no one say anything bad about the incoming NASA administrator. Folks that I've talked to who've met him in person say he's a really nice guy. He's deeply curious. And that's really the number one thing you want is someone who's deeply curious.
Mm-hmm.
But he's compared to scientists who graduate college at 30, he's extraordinarily young. He's 41. He didn't go through graduate school. He didn't go through the, oh shoot, how do I get a job of science. He didn't come up through engineering and all the challenges of how do we innovate things that we don't know how to do on a very limited government budget where VC is not an option.
Mm-hmm.
So he's coming in to lead something that is culturally, utterly alien.
Mm-hmm.
And I know how hard it is for me to talk to my friends who are on the Silicon Valley, San Francisco Bay Area, land of unicorns side of tech. It's just a completely different culture. And we can be friends and hang out, but we don't understand each other's work
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm really worried about that disconnect on culture because just having business people who are part of government come in has been devastating more than once.
Yeah, I
So,
know that like those are my people, right?
yeah,
That's my background is dealing with people who come from the tech
yeah.
side. Uh, I've been venture capitalized in the past.
Hmm.
I've been part of companies that have gone public. Like I've experienced that whole thing,
Yeah,
and for me, I left that field because it was too bureaucratic for me, right? I am such an entrepreneur that I don't even want to run a business where I have to deal with banks and all that kind of stuff, right? Or deal with investors or any like all of that is just I hate every second of it. And so
and the
there is
degree of bureaucracy at NASA.
I know, right? And so when you think about how if you come from the venture side, from the running a business side, from running a tech company side, that there's a certain streamlining that you expect and a certain sort of like your will becomes reality
Yeah,
will crash head on with the bureaucracy, as you say, of NASA, where you've got the actual functionality of this organization split up amongst you know what is it, 13 major centers across the United States, as well as minor centers and minor functionality across every state, where senators and congresspeople are are on the hook
yeah,
to deliver jobs to the people in their various areas, that the large scale going to the moon and things like that are laws on the books that are signed by Congress, that it is this interconnected, that the National Science Foundation is connected to all of these research
yeah,
institutions and universities, and funding is flowing to all of these
yeah,
things. And the best case scenario is Isaacman comes in, is humble, says I'm going to learn, everything that I can about the way the system works, and then I'm going to try and intelligently improve it. Because I think anybody
Right.
at NASA, anybody else says, "Oh, there's, how would you improve this?" And they would talk your ear off about the
Yeah.
ways that this bureaucracy could be reduced, that the system could be improved, that things could be streamlined, that money could be spent in a more economical fashion. The best case scenario is Isaacman listens humbly and then starts to take his entrepreneurial spirit to to make those kinds of changes so
Mm-hmm.
that the entire system runs better. The worst case scenario is that they just go, well, we can't fix this without just taking a chainsaw and privatizing everything. Like there's no way we're
Yeah.
going to, so instead of saying, well, we're just going to privatize this mission, privatize that mission, and privatize this functionality, because that's the simple solution. We've seen that happen in various countries, to some cases good results, some cases disastrous results. And the sort of likely middle ground is that you just have this snaring, entrepreneur meets bureaucracy situation that just makes everything worse.
Yeah.
So for now,
Yeah.
of a lot of the appointments that have been put together, he's the one that I am most hopeful about,
Yes.
right? If I look at all the possible appointments people have been set up, he's the one that I'm like, I don't know, this could work out and this could go badly, and we'll have
Yeah.
to see and find out. But I personally don't have any preconceived expectations for how this is going to work out, and I'm perfectly happy to kick back and just report as things happen and not try to quarterback quarterback this.
Yeah. I don't think there's space to quarterback things. Just because there's no data and we might not even be playing that sport. I The question that I've been asking folks is, what is your plan B?
Mm,
And like, I'm at an institute where everyone is funded off of grant money.
yep.
And if it's suddenly decided that the work we're doing isn't worth doing because we're not putting enough back into the economy, just I fear for all of the people who are going to be driven into completely different fields and aren't prepared for it.
Yep. Yeah.
It's going to be brutal.
Yeah. I mean, like for me, my plan B, watching the collapse of the advertising market,
Mm-hmm.
watching the accumulation of power by Google
Yeah.
and ChatGPT and all this kind of stuff, was to invest in, all of my time and effort and energy into Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
And we're there.
Yeah.
Like for me, for astronomy, for Universe Today, I am months away from shutting off advertisements and then just being fully Patreon supported forever at this
Yeah.
point, until Patreon goes under. That's a problem. But anyway, one problem at a time. But I think for a lot of people, if things do get very radically different, they're going to have a hard time adapting to whatever's the new environment. And I think that's a great question. Your plan B, when you ask a person what their plan B is, that tells you what they think is going to happen,
Yeah.
because they're actually taking action to account for it. All right,
Yeah.
you know what? We've reached the end of our hour and then some. That got really interesting and spicy right at the end there. But have a great holiday.
You too.
And yeah, and everybody, I hope, has a safe and fun holiday with as much or as little human contact as you desire, as much or as little alcohol, beverages, tasty food as you think is appropriate. And we'll see all of you in 2025.
Sounds great. Have a wonderful